Welcome to Two Steps Back with Nicole and Kathleen. It's a podcast.
Hello, everybody! Yun na pala official soundtrack na introduction natin.
Lagi may sing-song entrance.
Yeah, official na yon. Okay, let's record it, patent it, trademark it, char.
Copyright it.
So today, we are going to discuss a kind of touchy topic because this whole debacle with Carlos Yulo, our two-time Olympic gold medalist, and his family has raised so many questions.
And very interesting discussions online din.
Yeah, yun na nga eh. Parang feeling ko it's something that is so normal in people's everyday lives. Pero syempre we don't air it out. It just so happens na may bigla ang super fame si Carlos Yulo. So na lumabas talaga lahat in the air. Pero yung what's really interesting and what made us do this episode is yung discussions online ng mga people. It made me question naman na, so when do children become independent of their parents? Kasi at some point in our lives, we will grow into our own person.
Yes.
And it may not always, well, most of the time, I believe, hindi yan nag-a-align sa mga parents natin. And feeling ko it's striking din for parents na, wait, buong buhay ko, lumaki ka sa akin, pinalaki kita, bakit biglang iba yung path? Or hindi ito yung na-imagine ko?
Or ibang ugali din.
Oo. So we are going to extrapolate that today actually. Really interesting subtopics. Ang daming mga sub-issues within these issues. Pero what we will not do today is decide for Carlos Yulo and his family. Kasi I feel like a lot of comments were also pointedly doing that na he should do this.
Or
the
they
parents
should do that.
not do
Yeah.
this. Yeah, pero we know that family issues will always be the messiest, the most complicated. Pero at the end of the day also, kayo-kayong pamilya lang din makakasolve niyan.
True.
Kahit na ano pang alam natin, right and wrong, ito yung mga ethics dyan, pero it's the relationship eh. That's where the complication is, the dynamic, the communication.
And the culture.
The culture. Ikaw ba sis? Ano yung naging impression mo? Kasi hindi natin to maiwasan sa social media. You browse a little bit, yun lahat lumalabas talaga on all platforms because it's just that loud. Ano yung impression mo while scrolling through those perspectives?
I think, well, first off, the perspective that really hit me was bakit kailangan usapin sa online? Yung mga family, I guess, dialogue. Because that being said, family is such a private part of our lives that I think the most constructive conversations happen behind closed doors. And I don't really believe that anything constructive comes from airing things out publicly. The second is I can really see how culture also plays a part in how some people justify certain actions or even the acts of giving back, or even you could term it honoring one's parents. So just why in preparing for our discussion today, I was even thinking from the context because I had attended a sermon at my church recently, and the topic was honoring. But because we are such a religious country here in the Philippines, I think it's important to also mention that honoring one's parents appears in the Bible. It says, honor your mother and father as your Lord God instructed so that you have a long and fruitful life. And sometimes that can be drawn out to, okay, so whatever your parents say or wish for you,
You have to submit.
Susunod ka lang.
Oo, yes ka lang ng yes.
yes. So that's an interesting thing to unpack, because how much does that bleed into not just this situation, but us culturally as Filipinos, but maybe even if you're not Filipino and watching this, you might see also remnants of that being carried into your life.
Okay, so that's a lot right now.
I know.
Pero,
This is such a broad topic talaga.
yeah, pero can we outline it muna? I think we should start off with, okay, we are discussing this episode because I think it has a lot to do with becoming independent. Kasi a lot of our viewers are asking that na to be independent, pero yung first notion natin is financially establish that to become independent. So yung mga ganong career.
Okay, yeah.
Pero I think what we don't usually talk about is becoming independent from your parents. It's unavoidable. And I researched some articles here, and I found one in Harvard Business Review. It says, the title is Don't Let Your Parents' Disapproval Derail Your Dreams. So what this article mentioned is, okay, inevitable na magka-clash with the parents because number one, there's this sifting method. Like, kunwari, yung what you grew up with, na values, principles, way of life. You know how when you become a parent, you're like, oh, these are the things I want to pick up from my parents, and these are the things I want to get rid of. Like, how I want to discipline my child, blah, blah, blah. So that's a sifting method, sabi ng article. So it's picking out the values lang, choosing the certain values that will fit into the future that you want to build for yourself. So, doon nagkaka-clash din na, how come you're not like this na? So, have you ever had that point in your life ba? Na parang nag-clash kayo ng parents? So, because you mentioned before in the previous episode na, so far, parang aligned kayo lagi ng parents. They let you be kasi.
Actually,
like, since expected na nga sa'yo. Pero when that clash happens, may ganun ba?
There are points of friction, I would say. Not a big clash, but points of friction. Like, one of them being, like, for example, tithing. Like, I have a conviction to tithe towards my church. And my mom doesn't necessarily share the same conviction because that's money. Or there'll be certain talks where money will be seen as such a negative thing. And I feel like it's really an insight into both of my parents' backgrounds, who they both came from a level of poverty. And I feel that in a way, it kind of follows you through your life, like your attitude of money. Like, you can have a poverty mindset, or you can have a abundant mindset when it comes to money. And I can see that when it comes to money, it's always, 9 times out of 10 viewed negatively by my parents, who that was their experience of it. Like, it was something that was always in lack when they were young and growing up. So it's always a point of friction, because even though we didn't grow up with a lot of money, it's never been something seen wholly negative for me. So our experiences in life are different. And it shows up in a lot of different ways and manifests differently. But that's why communicating with your parents, I think, is something that is really helpful when you're able to work on it and improve upon, because everyone comes from different contexts of, like, why they justify certain decisions. Like, maybe to have this many savings and you can't spend on that expensive thing. Like, your parents are saying, don't be wasteful with your money.
Yeah.
It comes from the context of, like, they see money as maybe something that's only justifiable for maybe your living, like, your house, your bills, your education. But for you, maybe this is the reward that you're giving yourself for your hard work. Like, we all have different contexts, and I feel like in family, that's just really not avoidable. Like, it's really there, especially when it's in the framing of, like, your parents want to guide you to make good decisions. And out of all the people in your group or in your circle, they're the ones that put it upon themselves usually to be like, I need to guide my child right. I need to make sure they're making good decisions. But what makes a good decision?
Yeah.
It's also a different perspective.
Exactly. Actually, it's good that you mentioned that, kasi yung sinasabi nga nila lagi, di ba, walang magulang, walang parents who wish you ill.
Yes.
They always want the best for you. And I heard this also in a sermon last Sunday na. Sabi ng pastor, they want the best for you even if what the best is for them or what is good for them looks so different for what you see is good for you.
True.
Pero the point of this being is that you are different people.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Different people kayo ng parents mo. And what Kat said nga na they come from a different context, a different experience. That's why they have, parang we don't understand where they're coming from all the time. And not all parents are good communicators.
Yeah.
I feel like na even if I'm a good communicator now, I won't be a good communicator necessarily.
Yeah, that's true.
As a parent.
That's true. Kasi iba eh. You're also different personalities in your
Yeah.
family. Kasi, I mean, if you have your friend group, you can kind of choose your friends, no? But you can't choose your parents. You can't choose the personality of your parents, diba?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the overlying theme, I guess, you need to give each other grace. But ang hirap din manavigate kasi if anyone can trigger you, your parents can trigger you. Or your family, by extension, can trigger you.
Yes, but yeah. Yeah. And I found this article naman by Washington Post. It's Adulting 101, How to Navigate Big Decisions When Your Parents Disapprove. And there's a subtopic there na don't assume, ask, and validate. So, when I saw this, na don't assume, ask, and validate, kasi mostly yung arguments ko rin with my parents come from, ikaw kasi you expect me to do this, pero yun pala hindi. Ako lang pala nag-iisip nun. Or we have all these assumptions because we feel like we know our parents so much, gagawin ko palang to ito na sasabihin niya. Ito palang yung magiging conversation namin, alam ko na yung response niyan. Di ba ganun tayo? Oo. So, yung advice niya dito is like, to really sit down with your parents, have an open conversation, and to not impose your opinion on your parents then, but make them feel like you're really listening to them. I would say, really hard, almost impossible.
Yeah.
To be honest,
Because it's scary sometimes, nasa harap no, ng mga parents mo. And then, it can be vulnerable. For example, you're like, you want to change your degree that you're studying in college. Ang hirap kasi.
Yung kaba ko dun, sis.
Yeah. Because it's the dynamic of like, maybe you didn't pay for your college and that's the case like most of the time. So, you know, your parents are financially invested in your decision and maybe they have expectation on you pa. So even like communicating that, although we're saying communication is really key, and it is, that's scary.
It is.
It really is.
But it also goes to show na, di ba, we talked about sifting through the values. So parang it says in the article then na own your values. Na panindigan mo yung pinili mo because part of being an adult is sticking with your decision. Choosing that value over and over. Like you have to prove to your parents then that you are becoming an adult. And that's hard.
It's hard. Because they also have to do the work on their end as parents. So like, parang they're not gonna see you as a baby
And
anymore.
yung mga fears nila, ang hirap na
Ma-project
hindi
kasi sa'yo eh.
Yeah.
Ang hirap. But just on the topic of conversation, I would like to interject like something that's really a helpful tool, even in the context of relationships. So friendships, relationships, family. When you're airing out something, and then whoever you're talking to, say it's your parents' response, it's really helpful if you say, I heard this. Kasi minsan, people will communicate and it's not how they meant it to come across.
Yeah.
But because we never
Especially with all emotions at the table, iba yung
Yes.
interpretation mo.
Yeah. So you can use
So
the
this
line
is
of
what
what
I heard.
I'm hearing.
Yeah, oo.
And you give it back to them. Kasi minsan it's like, I actually know that's not what I meant. Kasi it's really helpful for me as someone who puts a lot of weight to words and I can get really hurt by words.
Yeah.
Nah, I want to make sure what I'm ingesting or what I'm really like absorbing from that is what you meant to say.
I wish I knew that
Me
when I
too.
was a kid.
Me too.
So I'm hearing this.
Yeah.
Is this what you meant? And that'll make them feel heard and that will show them na you really want to understand.
Yes.
But also, on the point of communicating or opening up a conversation with your parents, if it doesn't work the first 3 times, keep doing it. Kasi sometimes, it's just a matter of time. Like you spacing siya, na okay, this is what I really wanna do. Tapos sabihin nila, I don't approve of this. Sorry, you don't have my blessing. Pero ikaw, gut feel mo eh.
Yeah.
Ang hirap, diba? Like, sure talaga ako eh. And kahit na ito yung maging consequence, ready akong akuin yun. Di ba?
Yes.
That's how you follow your gut feel as you transition into an adult. So if you show your parents, you prove it,
Yes.
and then kung hindi nag-work, guys, kung hindi nag-work, alam mo yung parents yun rin yung unang sasalo sa inyo.
Yeah.
To be really honest. So, either way, yung conversation, once again, is not proving who's right. It's
Seeking
building
to understand
trust.
each other. Yes.
And building trust with each other.
Yes.
Na kahit na, if it doesn't work out, at least alam nyo yung pinagdadaanan ko. So, hindi siya argument talaga na parang debate. Don't
Yeah.
treat it as that. So kahit na mahirap yung conversation and this, hindi siya ideal talaga na parang, yeah, just open up a conversation, be open. Kasi, gosh,
Scary.
emotions are scary.
And if
especially
you're
with your parents.
non-confrontational, like, for example, I'm terrified of those kind of conversations. Especially when emotions are involved. It's like, I'd rather not.
Yeah. So thank you, Dad, for normalizing our long breakfast sermons. Oh my God.
Oh. And also to any parents that are watching, I know that we're talking a lot from the viewpoint of the child or the person who's wanting to seek independence from their parents.
Maybe, 5 years from now, we can talk about the
Yeah.
parents. Wow.
5 years. Hello.
Lord.
Fell.
20 years pala.
The prehistoric, very fossilized na ang eggs.
Kailangan ko ng powder. Yung effect ko na. Here's our advice as parents.
It's been ruminating for she's well cooked. But for the context of parents that are watching, I just think that it would be helpful to see or to kind of see your child through that lens of I have guided and taught my child to the best of my ability. Now it's time for me to trust them. Kasi minsan we get a sense of safety from control. And sometimes that's usually what I see in the dynamic of parent to child is that control that like, no, you need to listen to me, do exactly what I say. Like this, you don't know better. I know better because I'm older. But again, that can really stifle someone. Like, I don't think Nicole or I would be here had we really like followed our parents' advice to a T. Like, baka I would have gone through medicine. Nicole would be in corporate.
Yeah.
So we ended up in completely different paths. Not to say that those paths were wrong, but we learned our own lessons. We made our own mistakes. And then at the end of the day, we were able to take ownership of what our path ended up looking like. Rather than, for example, if I would just follow my parents and what they defined as best for me, perhaps I could have grown to resent that because I was never allowed to explore the world and make my own decisions and to create a path for myself. So parents, it's hard to do because letting go of control is scary.
Yeah.
Especially with someone you love and care about so much, which is your own flesh and blood or the people that you see as your children. But control is not the healthiest thing. And you just have to say, I trust in yourself as a parent, as an individual, that I have guided and taught my child the best of my ability. And now it's time for me to see how they really embody those lessons and to see them walk it out on their own.
Yeah. I know this is such a touchy subject. So I called my mom.
I love it.
I was like, Mom, as a parent, were you ready to be a parent to an adult? Diba? Kasi parang all your life, na-imagine ko lang, all your life, this kid is dependent on you.
So how do you switch?
How do you switch?
Yeah.
So my mom said na parang, she let go of control a bit naman, which I saw. Pero, growing pains talaga, guys. You know, you heard my stories about me crying in the restroom, talking to my mom.
Yeah.
And same scenarios with my dad din yan. Pero growing pains. And like yung book quote na, minention ko sa last book episode namin. Okay, flashback, insert video here na lang para hindi ko nabasahin ulit. Pero yun something about making good, what is a good decision? A good decision is being able to stand by it and also accepting the consequences. Good and bad. Yun yung decision mo. Yun. So, my mom said na, I have to see how you handle your own consequences.
Yes.
Pero at first daw, like, guided siya. Pero my mom would really call me, ano na nangyari? Ano na update? Whenever I make that big decision. And then, when eventually, I was the one who grew frustrated with my parents. Pagka yung sobrang wala na akong answer sa questions ko because talagang fork in the road talaga, na I was like, Mom, why don't you just tell me what to do?
Yeah, that's true. I've experienced that too.
This is the time. Diba? This is the time to have control and just dictate. And para hindi na ako mag-decide for myself. Kasi yun, ako
You're
pa may
lost, you're
kasalanan.
overwhelmed, you're like,
Oo. And I
yeah.
go back to like, oh, my parents would know better. But they're like, I can't tell you
Yeah,
eh.
I know,
Ikaw lang makakaalam niyan eh. And I'm like, hindi ko nga alam! Oh my gosh. Anong incident mong ganon?
When I was deciding if I was gonna go to college or pursue work.
Ah, yeah.
Because I was like, wait, I feel like you raised me with the expectation to get a college education because that's how you make yourself successful, get a decent job. And now you're telling me I could just go straight to work. And I'm just like, but the structure is gone from my life. Can you just tell me what to do?
Ano ba yung mo nun? Yung range of emotions mo nun?
I felt
Kasi
like I was having a
akala ko
midlife
I'll be like,
crisis.
yay! I was allowed!
I was so scared because, like, again, I get a lot of sense of security from control and having a plan. Like, it's only something I learned in early adulthood that spontaneity is not the worst thing in the world because I just hated things coming up that weren't planned for. It made me feel inequipped. It made me feel like it wasn't going to work out well. So this was not on my path that I saw for myself. Like, I really thought I was going to go to college. And it was also intertwined with, like, Australia was my comfort zone. All the friends that I grew up with, like, that's comfort. Like, that's something I know. That's something that's familiar. And
it's not scary.
No. And then here I was in a country that I had traveled to a lot growing up, but spoke a different language that I didn't understand or speak at the time. And then, I mean, I didn't necessarily have a sure career. It was an opportunity and not sure.
Yeah.
Was it long term even? I couldn't even answer that. So I was just like, I don't have any security. I don't like this. Like, parang na-overwhelm ako talaga at that decision.
Pero ano ina-expect mo from your parents to say ba? Like, yung saving line na,
Parang gusto ko sabi nila na parang, alam mo, let's just go with the sure thing. Let's just go with, like, you know, you can go to school and then we'll figure it out later if you want to explore later. Kala ko yun ang sasabi nila. Pero they're like, well, diba, you go to college to get a job, to earn money. If you didn't go straight to going to a job to earn money, why not? You can study anytime. And I was just like, wait, what?
so mas mahirap kasi parang na-open yung possibility na yun. Tapos parang, how do you say no to that? Na parang, I can earn money for my family. Na parang obligation na rin siya.
But it
Ganun
wasn't
ba?
even as a provider yet. This was just for myself. Because like at the time, my mom was still working. My dad was still working. So it was talagang just yung path ko naging lopsided. And I just really, I guess, assumed that they would want me to live near them in the country that they're in.
So,
Like,
mas naloka ka sa choice.
yeah.
Na parang, oh, there's another door open.
Yeah.
Can you please tell me?
Yeah,
Ganon.
which to do. Because it's like my first big adult
So,
decision.
paradox of choice.
Yeah.
Kasi kung closed yun, at least alam mo, eh, ito lang
Yes.
naman yung path mo eh.
Yes.
Ah,
Yes.
gets.
Yeah.
Oo.
And the structure was thrown out the window, which made me feel very uneasy.
Yeah, like, what is that? Bakit nag-open bigla yung door?
I know.
Ganon.
Yes, exactly. With the tones of the voice and all. Because I think it's a really interesting conversation because there are people who are parents who feel that I invested into my child.
Mhm.
Like an investment is something to be returned. Like there are people who are like, I raised my children so that someone would look after me.
Mm.
And I feel that pours into the concept of like, how do you really become independent when that expectation is placed upon you?
Yeah.
Because I don't know, I feel like when you're developing your own sense of self, and financial things are really wrapped up into that because having financial freedom allows you to either explore opportunities or to have your own home or to have your own family, etc. Not allows you, but it definitely makes it easier. But I feel like culturally, in the context of it, it's also different here in the Philippines because I grew up in Australia and there it's like at the age of 18, you're expected to go off on your own. Whereas here in the Philippines, I don't know if you guys are watching from
You
other
stay
countries
as long
and it's different.
as possible.
You almost stay until marriage,
Yeah.
until you create another family.
Pretty much, yeah.
So that can be 20s to 30s. And I think that's such an interesting dynamic.
More of 30s nga kasi cost of living is so expensive in the Philippines.
True. Yeah, that's really true. I mean, who can afford a house nowadays? So I think this is a really interesting topic because it really shows the variety and the dynamic. But that's because the thing is, money is such a touchy thing for a lot of people, especially in this economy.
Yeah. And I don't think we really know how to talk about money.
We don't. We don't. I mean,
Maybe
like,
it's a cultural.
cultural
Diba?
and also your family dynamic. Again, like in my experience with my parents both coming from the backgrounds that they did, money was taboo. We would never talk about money, and if it did come up, it was always a negative context, or it would have like some stress associated with it. So I even perceived it as a negative thing growing up, which maybe bleeds into why I'm so practical with my money now.
Ano ba ibig sabihin mo pag kasi sabi mo negative perception on
For
money?
example, be like, how do we, I'm stressed about paying the rent this month, or there's so many bills and like they're all piling up. Not me saying that, my parents talking about that in front of me. So it would always, and I would see my mom be really stressed about it because she was the one that would handle our finances. Because my dad had the attitude of like, here, I've earned the money there. And then my mom would be the one to allocate it. Okay, this is for the mortgage, this is for the bills, this is for the school, this is for the medical, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, and because I'm an only child, I become so attuned with my mom that I can read her like a book. So I know her stress cues, I know when she's frustrated, flustered, etc. And I would read that body language on her whenever the topic of money was on the table. So I always related it to money is stress, money is complicated, money is not abundant, money is in short supply, money is something to be worried about. How about you? How did you...
I'm getting realizations now na parang, when I become a parent one day.
Yeah.
Kasi di ba may mga napapanood din ako na parang how can you teach your children how they can better treat money?
Yes. And sometimes the way that folds into the family dynamic that I see a lot that we mentioned just earlier, but I would love to know your thoughts as well. Like, because I was asked to do an interview, and this is how they positioned it. They were like, your mother and father invested in you. They invested in you and allowing you to do all the extracurricular activities, sending you to a good school, and so becoming a breadwinner was the investment being paid back to them. And I denied the interview because I was offended for my parents. Because I was like, no, like I was not a piggy bank that was put into, like coins put into it growing up just so that they could crack it open when I was earning money and then be provided for. I mean, that's a bonus that I do, like, and I do provide for my parents, but I do it because I want to. Not because that's my service in reciprocity to how they raised me.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people like that.
And ang daming comments din yan on the Yulo debacle.
Yeah.
I want you to extrapolate on that actually. Hindi ako nanggaling sa ganung situation. And yours, feeling ko medyo may parallelism din kay Yulo na ikaw, Miss Universe bigla. And if it didn't work out, it would look so different.
Yeah.
Given that question sa interview, what was running through your head? Especially since a lot of people have been interested in, for example, na how much are kids supposed to give back?
Yeah. Well, for me, this is my personal opinion. I feel like the child should give back or provide as much as they want to. So I feel like if you wanted to be independent and say like, mom and dad, like you raised me like this and you want me, maybe they didn't even express, but like, I feel like it should be a choice that comes not from obligation, but because you love your parents and want to provide in that way. Because otherwise it's a breeding ground for resentment, and also the boundaries, if they're not properly in place, it can really just lead to more, I feel like, negative emotions or just resentment in general. For me naman kasi, like, my parents never spoke to me and that like, oh yeah, you're gonna earn lots of money one day, ha? Para you're gonna look after us. It was mostly just like around the sentiment of, please don't send us to a nursing home. We don't want to be sent to a nursing home.
Yun lang yun,
Yun lang.
Which is good kasi it's good to set expectations. Hindi yung mabubulaga ka in the end.
Yes. So that was the sentiment that I grew up with. It wasn't that like you need to provide for us, but it was more of just like, we don't send us away to a home, huh? We still want to be around our family and our grandkids, etc.
Pero short break, nung sinabi nila yung expectation na yun, ano yung unang plan mo for them?
Okay. So like now what that looks like, so in my personal journey, like I have been very forthcoming with providing for my parents because my dad's already retired and my mom helps me with my finances and investments. So I can see that as she is still in a way working for me, even without a salary, because she doesn't want it. But then I'm providing for them, and like they live with me some parts of the year, and I get a lot of joy of that. And not to say that everyone gets joy from taking on the responsibility of looking after their parents. Again, I feel it should be
Especially
a
since
personal
may
choice.
Financial limitations.
Yes, yes. Because I'm also in a position of privilege that I'm earning this much that kaya ko i-take care ng parents ko. If I didn't have the means, that would be a whole nother situation, which is what
Hirap.
Nicole just mentioned about if I had not one. Siguro, I would have gone back to college or something, and then that would have incurred student debt and all that kind of jazz, so I would have not been in the position. But now that I have the means, like I find a lot of joy in being able to look after my parents. And just recently, with that very traumatic incident that happened on our trip, but that was a really beautiful family holiday that I was able to bring my parents on. And because of our dynamic in our family, that brings me so much happiness that I can do that. But it doesn't feel like an obligation. It doesn't feel, kailangan ko i-provide ng ganun. And I do it grudgingly. Like, I do it with joy. And I feel that's because it's a personal conviction. So, yeah, going forward, sana tuloy-tuloy yung kaya ko to provide for them, because it really makes me happy.
Yeah. Pero what if the time comes na when you get married, tapos syempre yung finances mo mapupunta in building your own family. So, naisip mo na ba?
Yeah, naisip ko. Because it's an important conversation to have with your would-be partner. Like, are they okay with you looking after a family in that way? Because some people are not. And then when you're merging two households, two incomes, syempre, it's not just you who has a say over the money.
Yeah.
You're sharing it with someone else. So if you're doing looking into future with somebody, it's an important thing to talk about. But for me, it's kind of something that I just have conviction with. Like, I will always look after my parents. So dapat mag-agree yung kasama.
So yun yung parang non-negotiable
Yeah, that's
mo.
one of my non-negotiables. I'm not saying that they need to pay for my family.
Pero ikaw,
They cannot be mad that I am using my income for them.
Yes. Kasi
That's
meron
the
ding
boundary.
may partners din who will be like, why are you giving this much?
Yes. Yeah, so that's, again, case-by-case basis with whoever it is you're dealing with. But what I will always say is, at the end of the day, even though it might seem very impractical and unreasonable, you need to save something for yourself, because if you burn out, everyone's screwed.
Yep.
If you are you're gonna burn out health-wise, or you're gonna, your mental health is gonna decline. Like, what help are you to your family then? So I feel like boundaries would come into play there, but that's a whole nother episode, because boundaries are not so easy to put in place.
It's so complicated.
It's so complicated.
Actually, what you said a while ago nga na, don't burn yourself out. In line with properly communicating that, you should tell your parents na, be transparent na ito lang yung sinusweldo ko.
Ito lang ang kaya ko.
Oo, lalo na if it's inhibiting you from actually being able to build your own family, or you can't move on with your life or mag-progress sa life mo because, ayun nga, parang you have to meet expectations and demands. And I don't think loving parents would want to limit their children.
Hirap. Walang talagang one-liner answer, kasi at the end of the day, everyone justifies different things differently. But I think it's a grace-giving concept to also see that your parents are doing the best with what they know and what they have. That might not necessarily equate to it being the best advice or the right advice, but I truly believe that for most of the cases, parents are trying to guide and love on their family the best that they know how. The context that molds that could be different for everyone. But also, I think it's important then to bounce off that, sis, na kasi our situations, the both of us, look different because we were raised like knowing both of our parents, but it's also needed to be acknowledged that there are instances where maybe some of you who are listening or watching have experienced abusive parents, absent parents. So obviously honoring one's parents when you maybe have not been treated so well is something that sounds kind of ridiculous to you. Like, why would I
Yes.
go out of my way to respect and listen to these people who have treated me terribly? So everyone's situation looks different, and we're not speaking on our personal experience to blanket like everyone's situation with our experience. But I just think it's interesting kasi parang I feel like the older I got, because when I was little, I'm an only child and I'm very close with my parents. They're still together until now. So I grew up with that family unit intact. But I always put my parents on a pedestal. And I think when you're a child, that is the tendency. Now, when I would see my parents as adults, kala ko, they knew things that I didn't, that they had the answers, that they had things figured out. But technically now, I'm 30. My mom had me when she was 27. So I was a 3-year-old in the context that I'm 30. When she was 30, she had a 3-year-old daughter. And that just put into the context na parang parents are just like us. Also with their own like baggage, issues, figuring out things, not having the answers, but in having responsibility to steward and guide children. Which is crazy to me because like now I still feel in many ways like I haven't reached peak maturity in certain things and I haven't got all the answers. So it's allowed me to give my parents grace or other parents grace. But that's not to be said that there are definitely people who are parents that need to be held accountable. And sometimes in loving a parent, boundaries are needed. Right? Kasi loving someone doesn't mean you have full access to me and you can treat me and talk to me however. And out of love, I will accept that and say that, yes, you can do that. Because sometimes, I mean, even if you love someone, you need to put boundaries. You need to put distance to protect yourself and protect your peace.
Na, pero interesting what you said din kasi kanina na you learned eventually that your parents are actually imperfect people. Kasi parang growing up as kids, parang wow, my parents are perfect. They can do no wrong. They know all the answers.
Yes.
And then you reach that age na parang they're also imperfect pala. Yeah. So what was that moment for you naman? And and also pala sa article that I saw, one of the clashes then between a parent and a child daw is all the times that you failed each other. That's where you're coming from. Na as a kid, syempre, alam mo, your parents have failed you in one way or another.
Definitely.
Oo. And then, as a kid then, gosh, tenfold of the times that your parents have failed you. So parang, coming from the parents, how can I trust you to make good decisions? Ganon. And then coming from them, parang, how are you so sure that you know what's best for me? Because there are a lot of times when, di naman lagi sure way yung sinasabi mo or correct or whatever, diba? So I think that's an interesting point to delve on then.
It's like the consequence of the shared history.
Yeah.
I think the moments that I was able to really humanize my parents, alien sila, charot, but to see them
sometimes
extraterrestrial beings. But I was able to humanize them in the moments that they allowed themselves to be vulnerable with me, especially my mom. Because we're quite close, and I think your tendency to always be strong and to always put up this strong front came from her. She seldom allows herself to be vulnerable, but she has been allowing herself to be like that with me in the last maybe, I want to say 4 years. And in those moments, I can really see, wow, you never stop learning and growing as a person. It's not when you become a parent. It's not when you reach the age of 50. It's not when you reach a certain point in your career. Like, there are always lessons and insights to be gained at whatever age or stage you are in your life. The second is that parang also they're just figuring out like we're figuring out stuff. Like, although the situations look different because, for example, me compared to my mom, I don't necessarily have the responsibility of guiding and raising a child right now, other than these two. But in terms of navigating, like, what's my purpose in life? What brings me joy? What am I good at? who is my tribe? Who's my circle? Like, those are still things that my mom is looking to answer for herself. And I was like, oh, but I thought that, like, you know, once you get successful enough, you're able to just, like, tick off the boxes, put them into a neat little corner, and then there they stay. But the things that plague us, those questions of finding meaning or finding purpose, they evolve as we grow. And I just think that's so interesting and humbles me also, that when I see my mom or my dad navigating the stage of life that they're in, I'm able to see them with grace. Because if I don't have grace for them, then technically I can't afford grace to myself. Because otherwise it's like expecting them to have all the answers, expecting myself to know the answers. And Lord knows I don't got none. Like, just trying to make the best of what I got. And so are they. So yeah, it just really humanizes them. And I think putting anyone on a pedestal is not healthy behavior. But I mean, it's understandable as a kid. Like, you look up to your parents. They're your superheroes, or they're people, you know, that are just older. They're adults. You think they have it figured out. But yeah, just giving them grace as they navigate this life alongside us.
What does it look like to see your parents with grace?
It's just being more forgiving. It's really making the intentional effort to be like, okay, so I think what was said then rubbed me the wrong way, but where are they coming from? It's putting in extra work like that, which sometimes, I mean, being too understanding can also tendency to be like, you know, not so great, because then you make excuses for maybe bad behavior or not having boundaries, etc. And that goes for any relationship. But it's me having that extra intentionality and awareness. Like, okay, they're not saying this how I assume it's coming across. Maybe they're coming from a certain space, or this is the context that they're drawing from, or this is the experience that they're drawing from, and this is why they feel this way about this topic. I know it's kind of broad because I'm not naming exact things, but out of respect to my parents. But like, for example, like money. Like, if there's friction there, it's not just because, oh, money is this terrible thing, but it's because of their experience with money. Or maybe if you have a parent that doesn't approve of, like, say, your friend group, maybe it's coming from their experience with a bad friend group, or a bad experience with another person in the context of friendship. So yeah, it's just that extra intentionality with knowing where they're coming from. Yeah. How about you? And in terms of, have you reached a point where you've been able to see your parents through a new lens as you've matured? What did that look like? Was it a moment, a series of small moments, or?
Actually, to be fair, like my dad, ever since talaga, he encouraged openness among us, especially when we make mistakes. Na, you should never be afraid to tell me, because ang dami kong ginawang mistakes in my life, and you know those mistakes. So when you mess up big time, I'm the one you could call first. I'm the one you approach, none of your friends. Na parang, wag kang mahihiya. You know all my faults. Ganon. So, yeah, so growing up with that, parang,
I think that's such a gift, because not many people get that, for sure.
yeah. Pero if I can summarize my relationship with my parents, it's growing up with my parents. Because my parents had me really young. While they were reaching adulthood, we were kids. Tapos, I idolized my dad sobra din. Tapos, ayun nga, I started having my own identity, making my own decisions, and then he was making his own decisions then. So parang, hindi na kami nag-a-align at some point. But that's when I would say that all the lessons I learned from my clashes with my parents, my mga samaan namin ng loob, yung may growing pains talaga.
Yeah.
May
Definitely.
growing pains, and it sometimes never even stops to when teenager ka or when you become an adult. It continues talaga. Pero dun ko nakuha yung best lessons ko in life, na there are battles you shouldn't get into na, that you should let go of, na sometimes respect ranks higher than love. Kasi even if I love you, diba? Even if I love you, pero you hurt me. And you're supposed to be the last person who would hurt me. But yung natutunan ko, they're still your parents. You have to respect them.
Yes.
Even if you don't love them at that moment, you have to respect them. Even if you don't agree with each other. And ito yung pagka hindi agree na level na to, yung hanggang buto talaga, na I know it's wrong, I can't accept it. Pero you have to respect them.
Yeah.
Yung anak pa rin yung unang, ako pa rin yung unang lalapit sa dad ko. Ako pa rin gagawa ng way para magbati kami. And I can also accept if, to respect his opinion and to still follow.
Yeah.
Oo. Na to the point, honestly, sometimes na it eats away a little of myself.
Yeah.
Pero kasi I love and respect my parents so much. I would think of all the times that I did something wrong.
Yeah.
And they're still there. Diba? So parang when they become the imperfect people that they are and hurt me or do something wrong, I have to extend the grace.
Yeah.
See them with grace. Treat them with more grace. Na-realize ko, there are lessons in life that do not need to be learned today.
Oh, yeah.
Because it takes time for the both of you growing up together.
To get to a point.
It takes time to learn it together.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, there are so many decades-long na issues na kami ng parents na when we get to a certain point in life, we can talk about it now. Na parang, Dad, you hurt me when you did this, when you said this. And then, he also, mag-sorry siya na you felt that way, pero looking back, parang, that time, parang yung situation was so tough. Sometimes, the walls are so closed in. None of you have this chance to move or the space to move.
Yeah.
So, give yourself and your parents time to heal, allowance ng time to be able to learn the things that will allow you to learn the lessons you should have learned.
Yeah.
From the beginning. And siguro, never ever close the door on your parents. Even if it gets as messy,
Yeah.
na parang no turning back. I was there then. No turning back. Na I could walk away from all this. May mga ganong instances, di ba? Lalo na when you're a teenager and you're so full of like, angst talaga. Pero, yeah. So, I'm so glad that na nakarating kami ng parents ko to that point. Pero it never ends kasi until now, I'm getting to know my parents.
Yeah, that's true.
Especially, nag-iiba yung dynamic nyo through the years na now that you're an adult and they're older.
Yes.
You talk to each other differently.
With different experience.
Recently, I had a conflict with my mom. What struck me was my mom said, I thought all this time, all our lives, I thought we were the same. I thought your strength, yung strong personality mo, na akala ko hindi ka emotional like me. I thought we were so the same. So you expect yung responses kinda,
Yeah.
hindi ko alam that you're hurting that much. And dun kami parang, this is something new na naman. So we recalibrate. But what I would want to thank my parents for, Mom, Dad, I love you so much talaga because I feel like not everyone then is blessed enough to grow up with their parents because there are people who refuse to grow.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
There are parents who are totally non-negotiable. Let's acknowledge that. Diba? So, I'm so blessed that my dad asks me, may ginagawa ba akong mali na hindi ko nakikita, pero nakikita mo? And every time he asks that sa akin, kasi we check in on each other every now and then, I would thank God talaga na, Lord, thank you so much for putting us in this place right now. Like, what I thought before was like hellish for me. I was like, sobrang blessing na sabay-sabay kayo nagkaka-character development, ganun, na parang God is really so, so graceful. As in, na I would not think na we would reach this
That
point. Kasi ilang kids din ba makakasabi na yung parents ko, they ask me pa kung ano yung criticism ko sa kanila. Diba?
I never hear that.
Diba?
I
So-
think you're the first person to ever say that. My parent has approached me to say like, how am I doing? Or like, have I done something to hurt you?
Yeah.
That's very, I mean, not even the context of parents, but I mean relationships in general. You don't hear that a lot. That takes a lot of maturity and self-awareness. And like you said, willingness to grow.
Pero, na-realize ko din now, my role as a kid. Kasi before siguro, it would have been better na if I just shut off. If hindi ako sumasagot. Pero feeling ko, yung parents ko, they learned who I am din. Naging okay din na I put my foot down into this is who I am. I was vocal with what I expect din.
What you believe
Even
in,
if mag-clash kami ng parents ko. Could it have been handled better before? Definitely, pero you can't say that in every situation, especially since the dynamics are different. The resources available to you are different, diba?
And your maturity levels as
Maturity level is different. So, feeling ko, a large part din of me being vocal, and di ba kahit sa relationship nga, na-realize natin, sis, na mas
The
okay pa
quiet
lang
is not
nagka-quarrel
great. Yeah.
tayo.
True.
Oo.
Uh-oh.
Pero thank you so much, Mom and Dad, for learning the lessons together with me. So grateful for you for that.
Thank you for opening up and being so
Sinisipon na ako.
vulnerable.
Kasi nahirapan ako mag-navigate sa topic na to.
Oo.
Kasi, guys, kung alam nyo lang,
Yeah.
like, you feel like kami may perfect lives, pero hindi talaga.
Yeah.
Pero, kaya, all this, I was like, I shouldn't get emotional. I was like, quoting articles on this and that.
But that's what resonates with people who are watching and listening because it's from real life experience.
Yeah. So, guys, keep giving unlimited chances to your parents and also to parents. Don't miss out on the opportunity to learn with your kids din. Kasi
Yeah.
what I have now with my parents was a result of hard work ng communication that were hurtful then. Pero I'm glad na napakilala ko kung sino talaga ako to my parents, and the same way din sila. Like, sa quarrels namin, sa words na na-exchange namin, they allowed me to really get to know them din. Kasi there are
Yeah.
parents din na facade,
Yeah.
na parang I have to be this to my kids.
And you know, to be loved is to be known. So through walking through all of that, and it's
Yeah.
messy, and it takes a lot of work and a lot of tears and everything,
Yeah.
but at the end of the day, you know each other better. And there's just a different level of love that flows from that. And I'm so happy you're able to share that, sis. I'm so proud of you. That's such a big thing.
Episode 6 pa lang!
But yeah, I hope that there is some nuggets of wisdom throughout this. I really feel like there were. Natuwa ako sa conversation na to. So, and I'm just grateful that we've created this space, that we feel safe enough to talk about these things. And hopefully you guys feel safe enough also to chime in too. We would love to hear your thoughts and feedback. But yeah, we're all works in progress, including our families, including our parents. So if we can just extend that grace to everyone, I think we'd all be better for it.
So I hope that in this episode na may bullet points kami or summary din sa inyo of to be more aware of what actually goes on when you clash with your parents, and siguro parameters then that we have experienced to really put a finger to when am I ready to become an adult? What makes you a true adult? Because I thought it was just finances before.
Or age lang.
Or just being able to say na I provide for myself. Na, so you can't have a say in my decisions anymore, Mom and Dad. But it's really like, it's really like, kasi emotional fuzz pa yung brain ko.
For me, like becoming an adult and crossing that threshold into what it
And
looks
becoming
like
independent from your parents.
Yeah, for me, it looks like you're able to take ownership of your decisions and embrace whatever comes with that decision, whether it be consequences, great things, growth, hardships, etc., 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 etc. Because that taking of ownership, I feel, is what defines you as an adult. When you're still in a position where like, no, I just want someone to decide for me. I don't want to decide for myself. I'm scared. Then I feel like that's still quite in a childish mindset. But that's not to put it down, because it is a scary thing.
And it is a journey.
Yes. And we're all, on our own timelines, at our own pace. But yeah, I felt personally that I became an adult when I was able to be like, I'm going to make this decision. I'm not sure about it. I'm scared. You don't know how it's going to play out, but I will embrace whatever comes with it. I guess at the end of the day, you have to trust yourself. Trust that you know enough to make your own decisions and to commit to them. And that's easier said than done, because as Nicole said, like sometimes, every time a decision you have to commit to is all the good and the bad and everything that comes with it. And that can be scary. That can be hard. And you need to have a little bit of courage for that, because it's going to play out how it's going to play out. But at the end of the day, we never know how the cards are going to fall. So there's a little bit of risk in that. It's scary. But I guess, just try and trust yourself, your own wisdom, and to making your own decisions and how you navigate this crazy, messy, wonderful thing called life.
And siguro kasi another tricky part din pala is when you become independent from your parents, syempre when you own up to your own decisions, you have pride. You should have pride kasi you need to have that confidence.
Yeah.
But don't extend that level of pride. Don't use pride to shut out your parents.
Yeah.
I think yun. Like, you find that balance there.
Yes.
Now, you have pride in your decisions because you know you can answer for it, but don't shut out your parents na parang, hindi, ito yung tama. Kasi if it doesn't work out, unang sasalo sa'yo, parents mo, for sure, because they love you. I believe that. Meron pa pala sa article, meron ako nabasa na parang just because there's poorly expressed love, parang love is poorly expressed, na parang, how could you say that? Pero I can't believe that you love me and then you say that to me, na disappointed ka, you're not reaching our expectations, I can't support you in your decision. That's poorly expressed love.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that love does not exist.
Maybe some of you are watching or be like, what does honoring and respect actually look like? So I've encapsulated it into these 3 things. Treat them well, speak well of them, and then be committed to them. And like, you make yourself available when they need you. Because, I mean, speaking in the family dynamic, it can also traverse over into unhealthy behaviors, unhealthy environments. And me and Nicole aren't advocating that out of the name of respecting and honoring your parents, you subject yourself to unhealthy environments. Not at all. But honoring your parents is, speaking well of them, treating them well. And if you're living under the same roof, that's another thing. You do have to follow what your parents say.
Sorry.
It comes
Yun
with the
talaga
thing,
yun.
it's under their roof.
It should be motivation for your career.
Yeah, true. Diba? But yeah, respecting it, it's putting your pride to the side. And even though it may not look loving in the moment, maybe, or maybe it looks like you're not loving yourself, but that is the weight of needing to act out of respect towards the people who are leaders in your life, such as your parents. And just give grace for it to grow and for them to grow. Pray about it. If you don't see any progress, just continue to pray, because me and Nicole know that in our own instances, like, God works. Even when we don't see it, He's still working on it.
Even if it's not now.
I mean, it's a marathon and not a sprint, and that can really apply to the relationship that you have with the people around you. So, ayun.
Yeah, that was a very hard topic to discuss, but yeah, we're here for you guys. And should we announce rin ba na you've got mail?
Yeah, so because we really want to work on building our little community together with you guys, coming in Nicole, we thought of a really cute concept just to like get your maybe questions or topic suggestions or just...
Or if you want to dump your emotions, like what you're going through,
Mm-mm.
parang Reddit, ganon.
Yeah.
Diba? Yung mga
Naging
Reddit.
forum. Charot.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but pwede kasi we, like, it is our hope that in our future episodes, we could quote you guys, not maybe if you're not comfortable with us mentioning your name, but we could just be like one of our viewers mentioned that this is
Or share this story.
situation.
Think Charo Santos, MMK. Tapos gigas natin yung title in the end. Charot! Ang title na to ay Sachet, ganon. Pero yeah, like dump it on us. Maybe we could give advice or talk about it, and then I'm sure that your story, a lot of people would be able to relate to it then. So we're thinking of a segment like that then.
Yeah, because I learned so much from Nicole, and imagine if like we were able to have other perspectives from you guys, we would learn even more from each other. So
Yeah. And please comment din pala, guys, kasi I know this episode, this topic is polarizing. So we would want to know what you're going through in your case and the advice that you would actually give. Kasi grabe talaga, iba-ibang combination yan per family.
True.
So, and the goal of this episode is really to not have the answers necessarily, but to open up a healthy conversation around it, to break through the echo chamber surrounding the YOLO debacle nga, na puro, medyo, it all sounds the same na, the comments, diba? Na do this, don't do this, do that. So I think, let's honor the issue in a way na we have a healthy discussion around
a
it.
respectful discussion.
Yes.
Ayan, guys, thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. Ang dami nating inutos sa viewers natin. Pero thank you. Ang dami yung assignment.
Homework.
See you guys sa
Bye.
thesis presentation natin next episode.
I love you guys.